116 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches.
So like what, 19 fantasy points or something?
A little over 20.
Okay. Wait, what? Why do you do this? Hey, good morning. What a professional way to start a show. Good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL strategy show, lineup building edition. Fun show. Glad to have you with us. Hey, if you don't mind, take a single second before you get comfortable. Atone for your sins this morning. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. It is 100% free to do so. If you hate it, we'll gladly refund your misery by you clicking unsubscribe and forgetting we ever existed. I don't think you'll want to, though. And as always, leave us a comment down below. Let us know what spots are you getting to this week. It's a really interesting one in terms of not a lot of value, but a couple pieces that to Ben and myself jumped off the page. And that's basically it. Ton of top tier talent at the running back position. Good talent pretty much everywhere at wide receiver. And then at quarterback, you can kind of go anywhere if you'd like. So, hey, let me go back to my serious days. Let's welcome in Greg Ehrenberg at G Ehrenberg DFS. What's up, brother?
Yeah, as if I haven't just been sitting here, not knowing that we were live for one part, and also just sitting here.
No one knows anymore.
Wide awake because I'm also freezing. It's 30 degrees here in the morning, which typically whatever temperature it is outside is about what the temperature is in my office. So cold as shit. I've got extra heat going in my office. I've got a blanket on. I've got slippers. I've got a jacket. So it's going to slowly start to get warmer in my office over the course of the show. In like 30 minutes from now, I'm going to be dying because I'm way too hot. But right now, cold.
You know what the problem is? You've got, and I've seen your house. You have a nice, beautiful house. It's old, though. So it probably does not retain heat well at all and just gets cold as shit overnight.
Yes, it gets really, really cold, and we have central heat and central AC, but also, I mean, my house was made in the 1800s, which it wasn't built for heat and AC. So like the walls are thick, and then also like the ceilings are high, so the heat doesn't really distribute all that well throughout the house. So yeah, it's not ideal.
I'm in the basement right now. It's 30 degrees here, and I'm comfortable.
Can't say the same.
I don't have heat in the basement either.
Ooh.
You'd think it would be cold. I got a fireplace that I put up on the wall here. One of those electric ones. They're pretty sweet. But I'm good. I'm good. Anyway, let's get into it. How you feeling, man? Have you looked at the slate yet? Because I take a pretty in-depth look on Tuesdays and Monday night.
I've looked at it from a standpoint of running sims and seeing which players show up in lineups and kind of making some sense about it and why the players who are showing up are showing up. But I certainly haven't done as much of a deep dive as you have by doing like the first look show on Tuesday with Ben.
Well, that's perfect then. It is funny because there's one spot that I wasn't sure if it would be popular. I wasn't sure if I would be the one getting to this more than others. The Miami Dolphins, man. I talked to Ben kind of at length about this yesterday where, like, you know, they were okay. They got the win. It was an impressive win on Monday. Ugly football game. But nobody really did much, right? Like, Hill scored, but he was not good. Achane didn't do much, but he was on the field a ton and dominated touches. Raheem Mostert didn't get a single carry. He had 2 receptions. That's it. Waddle got more involved. Jonnu Smith is cheap at a bad tight end position. This was just out of the gate, one of those spots to stand out to me. And I'll let you guys know, we'll do the full Sims breakdown tournament strategy show on Friday. But just to give you guys kind of a peek behind the curtain with our initial run, which of course will be updated throughout the week, and you know, really fine-tuned and refined. But Devon Achane right now, I'm getting a ton of him, and I kind of love it. But conversely, Greg, and this is where I think things could change. A few of the guys I thought I'd get a lot more of, whereas I'm just getting a lot of Kamara and like Breece Hall. I thought I'd get a lot more Taylor in a great matchup against the Jets. And really, the guy that I'm shocked with, I thought I'd be getting a lot more Christian McCaffrey. I'm pretty certain we will see some of that change. In my opinion, given his workload and his snap share last week, he is just probably $1,000 underpriced.
Totally agree. I thought you were going to add Kyron Williams to that mix as
Kyron Williams
well.
is another one. Even Jahmyr Gibbs this week, I think, is really interesting with the workload we've seen shift over the past couple of weeks. There's a lot there.
Yeah, so we are going to have. Oh, by the way, there's a value option too at running back. We'll talk about in a little bit that I really like. Who I'm also. I guess now that we're talking about it, I'm looking at the exposure I got running my initial time through the Sims, and I think we just highlighted like 8 running backs. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't get more of this guy. I can't believe. Well, at a certain point, maybe I shouldn't be surprised that I didn't get like 50% of everybody because you run out of running back spots. But Estime is another one because he looks like he's the guy in Denver now, and he's almost the flat min. His price wasn't adjusted at all for what his role is. So there's a lot of good looking running back options. And I don't even hate that in my first run of Sims, I'm getting to a lot of guys like HN and Kamara. I think those are good options. There's just a lot of good options at the position, but totally agree with you as well on Christian McCaffrey. And there's just going to have to be a lot that changes over the course of the week with what his projection is going to be, because last week weren't exactly sure what his workload was going to be like, how many snaps he was going to play, even though he didn't have the best fantasy game. And he looked pretty rusty to me from what I saw of him on the field. Going forward, as long as his health is okay, based on what his workload is, it seems like he should be the running back who projects for the most fantasy points each week.
I'm with you. And by the way, when you say we have a running back or a value option at running back, you're not mincing words. We literally only have one value option at running back this week. That's the truth, man. There's, unless you see somebody that I don't, there's really only one running back option from a value perspective. And I'd go as far to say the only guy under 6K that I have any true interest in would be Audric Estime.
Yeah, I'm looking through some of the other running back pricing, and yeah, I agree. And I like Estime for this week. If you guys didn't see what ended up happening with his workload last week, but Javonte Williams just seems dead to the Denver Broncos now. They went to Estime. All right, pull up the.
He had 14 carries. He played a season high snaps. Javonte had 1 carry. Yeah. And I think, what did Javonte play? Like 20% of snaps or something? 19% of snaps?
He was still involved a little bit in the passing game. He was targeted twice, had 2 catches for 6 yards, but it looks like going forward, we should expect this is going to be Estime's backfield, and he is just super, super cheap. So him at $4,500 when there's literally only one cheap running back to be rostering. And then even at wide receiver, the options aren't great as far as the cheap end is concerned. I think that this is something that would just force me to get to more Estime if we were entering lineups right now, just because he's such a better value play than anything else that exists on the slate.
By the way, I told you I was filling out, I was sending out some Ring of Honor, some rings, 12 of them specifically, the beautiful rings in the display case that spins with everything engraved on it for your wins, any 20K plus win while rocking the Stokastic avatar. Stokastic.com/HOF, by the way. Get a month of $200 month of Sims Max for your first win, as long as you're rocking the avatar. Tweet your wins to us. It's Stokastic HOF on Twitter. Just finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, as long as you're rocking that avatar and you tweet us your wins. The rules are all right there. Second time, another month plus another week. Third time, a month of Sims All Access, $550 value. And then, of course, the beautiful rings that Jordan will put on the screen. Do yourself a favor. Make use of that. Make use of that. Anything you've got up there now is not going to provide additional money and resources like the Stokastic avatar would. Anyway, Greg, I have the simplest address in the world, simplest address in the world. Some of these addresses, I have to Google them because they submit them to us. I have to Google them to make sure that Ron didn't screw them up, and it's not Ron's sending them over to me. Some of this stuff's insane. Like I didn't know these type of addresses in the United States existed. Do you have an easy address, or is it like a convoluted mess like some of these? Don't say it out loud.
Easy address. It's just not that I'm going to give it out, but it's pretty easy where it's just street name and the number, and that's it.
Yeah, this is not. These are like, 15 Route 19 westbound south. Like it's insane. I don't understand it. Mine is right. Right. Yeah. 13 I-95. I don't know. Whatever. Let's get into it. Build a lineup and build a couple lineups. Maybe 2 DraftKings one FanDuel. That's how we usually do it. I want to start with the Tua lineups and see what they look like. I'm very interested in these this week. I don't know how they're going to sim out, but I'd like to try it. And with Tyreek Hill's price point, I think there's still plenty of meat left on the bone. I'm not as worried personally about his I'm not as worried about the torn ligament in the wrist. He was out there, he played a lot. They just couldn't get anything going. They won, but they only had like 260 yards of total offense. So not super worried about this. He still played 87% of snaps, Craig. So here's how I want to start the build, and then I want you to throw the next guy in. All right. And then you'll start the next build. I want to go Hill, Achane, and Tua and see what it looks like. Because if there's ever a running back that you can play in a double stack, right now there's nobody better than Devon Achane. He's the number 2 receiver on this team. So that's how I want to kick it off. Hill, Achane, and Tua Tagovailoa. Tua's what, 6K or 5,900 or something. Hill's 74. Achane's up there, but deservingly so. So let's do it.
Yeah, it's funny, by the way. The other running back who I'd say is most playable in stacks is the other running back that you get the most exposure to in the Sims right now, and that's Kamara, just because of how involved he is in the passing game. But yeah, totally agree with you. Achane, Tua, Tyreek Hill, totally reasonable way to be starting a stack here. And what does that leave us here? 4,900 in salary. So let's just find.
Wait, let's do deep. Yeah, sorry, cheap defense.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's look at some of the cheap defenses that are viable to roster for this week. Just so we kind of have an idea of what salary we have left. And there's actually a handful of them. There's
the easiest one, in my opinion, Tennessee, with the way Sam Darnold has been throwing picks left and right lately. What do you think about that?
I was going to say also the Jets at $2,800, just because I don't have that much confidence in Joe Flacco right now either.
No, neither do I. But what if we just try to go as cheap as possible first and see what it gives us? Because look how well the Titans project at 2,300 too.
Yeah, they're 2,300. There's actually a handful of defenses sub 3K that show up in lineups in the Sims. Titans at 2,300, Jets at 2,800, Bills at 2,700, Colts at 2,600, Patriots at 2,500. And I know people might go like, ew, the Patriots. Well, Patriots were pretty good last week from a fantasy standpoint, and the defense scoring ends up being pretty random. So yeah, I'm totally cool with the Titans defense at 2,300.
Where do you want to go elsewhere? I'll take the next spot or two here and see what we can build out. So where are we at now from a that gives us 54 with a tight end. Like if we wanted to just plug Davis Allen in at tight end, it's not the craziest idea in the world. I think he should actually be projected higher than that. We might see it come up a little bit.
So you got Davis Allen at 2,500. Who are some of the other cheap tight ends who show up on the slate? Jonnu Smith at $3,800 if we wanted to make it a triple stack. He's somebody who's relatively cheap. Hunter Henry shows up in lineups at $3,900. Juwan Johnson, we talked about him a little bit last week. He's at $3,400. We kind of had the right idea by talking about Juwan Johnson last week in terms of somebody was going to have to catch passes for the New Orleans Saints. It just ended up being MVS had the massive fantasy game, but I don't hate Juwan Johnson here either at 3,400.
You can
plug in Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, sure. Plug him in. I'm perfectly fine with that. I will say, I think our projection on Davis Allen comes up. And the reason I say that is because this is a guy we try and, provide some context and analysis instead of just building lineups. That might get boring. I said it a lot throughout the week. Like I'm low on Parkinson, hammering the under on props. I didn't know what to expect from him, but I expected him to continue the downward trajectory. And that's what looking at these type of stats can do for us. He played 16% of snaps last week. Davis Allen the last 2 weeks has played 55 and then 80% of snaps. And it gets even crazier when you consider that this guy ran, you'll find this nuts, right? 44 routes on Monday night, 44 routes on 50 dropbacks. That's a $2,500 tight end.
Yeah. So if you look at the work he got last week, it wasn't a big fantasy game, but because of all the routes he ran, to your point, I mean, he still had 6 targets, caught 5 of them for 34 yards. I don't think he's some guy who has a massive ceiling with like a super high depth of target or anything like that, but he is so cheap that I don't really think it matters for this particular week. At $2,500, if we're hurting for salary savings, then yeah, I would be totally cool with him being in lineups. The caveat being that if there is a bunch of value that opens up by the time that we get to Sunday, then maybe we don't need those salary savings to go all the way down to 2,500. But yeah, I'd be totally cool with including him in some lineups here. Handful of cheap tight ends. I do slightly prefer Juwan Johnson as of now, but I wouldn't have an issue with Davis Allen being in lineups. And just to save a little bit more salary, let's go Estime at running back, Jordan. That's Estime.
Okay, you want to throw Estime in there? Okay,
Yeah.
let's try it. So we'll go Juwan Johnson, Estime, and that should open some things up. The only thing I hate using Estime with at running back is there's so many good running backs on this slate that I so badly want to just try and get to all of them, but we won't be able to. So I'm okay with that against Atlanta for sure. 2 wide receivers and a flex, $6,400 remaining. Okay. So I think one of the things we can do here is go like I said this to Ben yesterday. I actually like the Jacoby Myers run back. And I don't think you always need the run back, but I think Jacoby Myers as the run back option actually looks good here. 5,600.
Yeah. And especially now that Devontae Adams is out of the mix. Not that, I mean, Devontae Adams isn't playing well with the Jets. He wasn't really having a good season with the Raiders either, but he still was somebody who was commanding targets. If you look at the volume that Jacoby Myers has gotten over the last handful of weeks, it's significant. He had 11 targets last week, caught 8 of them for 105 yards. And also, it just shit quarterback play for the Raiders. It hasn't mattered. He's just getting there with volume. He's now had at least 7 targets in 5 consecutive games, and he's had 9 targets in 4 of those games. The volume is very clearly there for him. So I think Jacoby Myers is somebody who, I agree with you, even actually outside of Stacks and him being a run back, I just think he's a good mid-range wide receiver option.
Me too. So let's plug him in. And we really haven't needed to force run backs this year. It's been, even last year, we've seen kind of a trend getting away from that, but I like it here. Now we have 6,800 to work with. So here's my question. Do we want to jam a top tier running back in the flex spot? If we were to do that, like, let's say you just threw Kamara in there, well, actually, I don't want to play him with Juwan. I don't think it's crazy to do that, but I don't think we have to. Like if you threw Kyron in there, that gives us 5,700, or do we want to try and go more balanced here?
Let me see. Let me get like a good feel for some of the pricing at wide receiver. There isn't anybody who's that cheap that there are guys who show up, like if we wanted to plug in a Jake Bobo or Kendrick Bourne shows up. So like these are guys who would sim out kind of decent. I don't love either of them though. Let's see. What is Jake Bobo seen for volume?
Well, this is also, I don't want to play him because this is also, I think right now under the assumption that Metcalf doesn't play, but it's been almost a month since he strained that MCL.
And even without him, there's been no volume for Jake Bobo. He's got 1 target in 3 consecutive games. So, like, I get why you just kind of have to allocate some of those targets to somebody, why he would project kind of okay. But yeah, DK Metcalf, if there is a game that would be most important for him to come back for, it would be this game against San Francisco. San Francisco hasn't been great. Seattle also, they started the year really well. They've had some super disappointing losses. They should be in the playoff mix right now if it wasn't for a terrible loss against the Giants. They blew a game against the 49ers as well. So I think DK Metcalf probably more likely to come back than not this week. Yeah, I'm thinking about the question you had asked, and to me, I think the answer is I'd rather have 2 mid-range plays here than 1 punt and then paying up at flex.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. The running back position is just so good. Like, all right, here, let me give you an example of somebody. What if we let's just try this. Let's try throwing Jahmyr Gibbs in.
Okay.
He projects well for us here. We've seen more work going to him recently in the run game as well. They are 13-point favorites against the Jags, who are likely without Trevor Lawrence. We know this team likes to run the football. That still gives us 6,300 for the final wide receiver spot. There's got to be someone decent down there.
Let's see. What's in the 63 or 53?
Yeah, 63. And,
Oh,
and
60,
we
63
do,
is easy. You can just plug Shakir in.
right. That projection will be changed throughout the week without question. Has to be. Do you not think so?
It depends on the health of the other guys on Buffalo. Because going forward, like I still think that if we still have Amari Cooper out and if Dalton Kincaid potentially isn't going to play, then I think we should expect a bigger workload for Shakir.
Oh, definitely. And of course, it does depend on Kincaid. It depends on a lot of these guys. This lineup will sim out well. I know that. There you go. Yeah, 161. That looks fantastic, right? You've got the Tua, HN, Hill. You still have Shakir. You still have Myers, who is probably a little underpriced. You have Jahmyr Gibbs in there as well. The only place you had to punt was Estime and Jawan Johnson and defense, which we don't care about. So those stacks look pretty good to me this week. This lineup looks pretty nice. I do expect some things to change as the week goes on, probably even by the time we get to Friday, Greg. But as of now, I don't mind this type of build whatsoever.
No, I think this lineup looks pretty solid. I was a little concerned if we paid up for running back in the flex that we wouldn't have somebody that we could fit in at wide receiver. But yeah, that worked out pretty well. And Shakir, I think, looks like a really solid option there to finish out the lineup.
All right. What do you want to do next? Let's do another DraftKings lineup, see what we get to here.
Yeah, let's see. So instead of going to Tua at QB, we could go really cheap. Actually, most of the QBs I noticed that I'm getting exposure to are guys on the cheaper end. Geno Smith is showing up in lineups. Part of that, though, is because of it's kind of weird how this works sometimes with QB stacks, but Geno Smith shows up a lot. In a weird way, it's because DK Metcalf is projected to be out right now. If DK Metcalf was in, Geno Smith shows up less, not because Geno Smith would be projecting better. He actually would project better if DK Metcalf was in, but the value would be worse for his pass catching options. So the reason Geno shows up a lot right now is because you've got guys like Jake Bobo, who shows up as a viable value option. Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's been great as of late. I'm really interested to see what JSN looks like when DK Metcalf is back, because I mean, JSN has looked like one of the better wide receivers in the entire NFL as of late. So Geno Smith, I'd rather not make a stack with him right now just because of the results are going to be a little bit skewed based on us projecting DK Metcalf out right now. We could do Bo Nix lineup. You could even do a naked Bo Nix lineup. We could go to Drake May. He's got a matchup against the Rams, and Drake May hasn't looked terrible. So there's some rushing upside in Drake May. Let's go to Drake May. Let's do a cheap QB stack.
Okay, I'm happy to try it. Another one I like, by the way, another cheap stack, I think the Jameis Winston stack. You can build whatever you want with that. But let's try Drake May. And I actually have two guys that I think plugging in make a lot of sense. So Hunter Henry, and it saddens me right now to see him not really showing up. Oh, there he is a little bit. Okay. Kayshon Boutte. This is, to me, the spot. Like right now, if I had to build a lineup, like let's say it's Sunday morning, right? And the slate locks in 2.5 hours, and we have what we have. Nothing's going to change, which is not the case on Wednesday. But if this were to be the case, Kayshon Boutte is actually my favorite play from the New England Patriots. This guy over the last 2 weeks, Greg, has run 99.5% of routes. He has run all but one route in the last 2 weeks. He is playing almost 100% of snaps. So it's kind of hard to overstate at that $3,500 price point the type of value you get on a guy like that if you're stacking him with Drake May, by simply knowing that he is going to be on the field for the entirety of the game and has big play. Believe it or not, they do look to him downfield. 3 straight games with 6 targets, $3,500. It opens everything up for us.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. We currently have, I think it looks like we have Kendrick Bourne projected a little. I don't know. They're projected almost exactly the same. Bourne's just cheaper. But we've got Bourne for 6.29 fantasy points, and Butte at 6.26, like pretty interchangeable there. And yeah, I'm totally fine with going to Butte.
Okay. Now, obviously, Kendrick Bourne last game, I should say, was inactive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, there's just no way. There's no way I would go Bourne over Kayshon Boutte. He was not inactive because he was injured. I'm sorry, not inactive. I shouldn't have said that he was inactive. He just didn't play. That's not great.
Yeah, just no snaps. He was active, but was just benched. Let's see. What did the team or anybody have to say about it? I'm just looking for some quotes. Here we go. Bourne was informed on Saturday that he may not play Sunday as the team prioritizes playing time for younger players. It appears head coach Gerard Mayo did just that. His second-year wide receivers, Demario Douglas, 4 catches for 50 yards, and Kayshon Boutte, 4 catches for 47 yards, led the Patriots in receiving. All right, so yeah, and then also I believe Jalen Poe caught a touchdown pass last week. So yeah, I would actually assume that Bourne doesn't play the rest of the season based on that.
Yeah, assuming everyone stays healthy. I don't know how anyone could disagree with that. So let's go Kayshon Boutte and Hunter Henry with Drake May. You know, these spots will feel ugly to a lot of people, but watch what it does for the rest of the lineup. If these guys happen to have even a decent game, Greg, like even just okay, you have everything else you want. With that in mind, though, do you think we need someone from the Rams side of this game?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
The stack is so cheap. There's a scenario where the Patriots score 17 points. The score of the game is like 17-14 or 20-17 or something like that. But Drake May is really cheap. He also has rushing upside. If you guys look at Drake May's rushing numbers, 4 carries for 24 yards last week, 8 for 95 the week before. Before that, 3 for 46 and a touchdown. This is a very mobile quarterback. There's a scenario here where he throws for 200 yards. And because guys like Boutte and Hunter Henry are so cheap, if they each put up like 15 fantasy points and then Drake May gets maybe like 20 with his rushing upside, you could have a really low scoring game where this easily all these guys pay off their salaries.
Definitely. So plugging the next guy into me, I still want a Dolphin here. I would still like to go to I really like this spot for Miami because I don't think these guys are expensive enough. Okay. And if we were to just take kind of a cursory look at the implied totals, at the team totals for some of these spots on Sunday, Miami's at 27. That's a great number for some of these prices. So I'm going to plug Achane in there. His workload seems to only be climbing, and he continues to separate himself. Give me Devon Achane once again. Hell, I wouldn't mind going Achane and Gibbs in a lineup like this, honestly. But if you wanted to throw Kamara in there or one of those other guys, I'm not opposed to that. I do think we see projections change throughout the week.
Yeah, let's plug Kamara in. And I mean, Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, these guys would all be reasonable options. But just for the purpose of getting us the highest possible sim ROI here, because he projects the best, let's go Kamara. And that gives us... let's plug in a defense now, Jordan, just so we have that out of the way and we know what kind of salary we have to work with. Let's just go back and let's just plug in the Titans again.
I'm fine going cheapest defense just to see what we can do with every one of these.
What does that have us with left remaining? Oh, wow, 64. Okay. Still a lot to play with here. So 2 wide receiver spots and a flex at $6,400. Boy, there's a lot of directions that we could go. And by the way, Devontae Adams isn't practicing today, so we'll see what that ends up being for Sunday.
That'll be wild. That gives us 6,400. We're in a good spot. We're in a very good spot right now. I mean, we could even consider paying up for some type of receiver. I'd go Hill NHN in this lineup. I truly would.
Yeah, we could go for guys in this price range. There's Shakir, there's Tyreek Hill. If we do think that DK Metcalf is going to sit, there's JSN at $6,500. Now, if we think Devontae Adams is going to sit, obviously this is something that our projections wouldn't be accounting for. We just found out he didn't practice, 90 seconds ago. Garrett Wilson, $7,100. It would be hard to get away from Wilson at $7,100 if there is no Devontae Adams this week. Josh Downs is 6,400 as well. He drew a ton of targets. Although with that said, do we have? Oh no, never mind. We didn't plug in the Jets defense, so we could also go to Josh Downs at 6,400. Lots of ways that we could go.
All right, let's go. We should just try Garrett Wilson here. It's not
okay. Well, if we're going to go Wilson, let's also put Downs in at 64, or we could go Adonai Mitchell.
We could do that. He started getting peppered late in that game.
He did. There was basically only two guys that Joe Flacco threw to for the majority of the game, and it was Josh Downs and Adonai Mitchell. They had... Oh, actually, Alec Pierce got some targets late. So 3 guys he threw to. 10 targets to Downs, 6 to Adonai Mitchell, 7 for Alec Pierce. The next highest pass catcher, the running backs got some targets. Yeah, the next highest was 2 targets for Kylan Granson as far as pass catchers go. So this is narrow targets for the Indianapolis Colts. If we do go Adonai Mitchell, then we could spend up for the other spot as well. That's kind of fun.
We can do whatever we want here. We can do whatever we want. Look, if you Bijan, Taylor, Brees, I don't want Brees in this spot. Cup, Hill, Gibbs. Like I would go right back to Hill or Gibbs and then just upgrade defense a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, let's go. What's the price point on Gibbs again? Gibbs is...
I think we go Gibbs here, 7,300.
Yeah, let's go Gibbs and then just upgrade the defense to whatever projects the best that we could fit in.
We can get Jets, but we do have Mitchell. Bills against the Chiefs. That's an interesting spot. Plug it in.
Yeah. The Chiefs offense, I don't want to play the Bills defense, but I don't know what to make of the Chiefs offense. It's weird.
They just keep winning games no matter how. It doesn't matter how. It's bizarre.
It is incredibly unsustainable to me. Do you know, because I was looking up just some of the records and margins of victory. Do you know where the Chiefs rank in point differential this year?
Oh, dude, they're probably... If you're talking per game point differential,
no. So overall for the year, just not per game, because it would
probably like 15th.
Not quite that low. 15th would be crazy for an undefeated team, but they are now. They're 9th. For the only undefeated team in the NFL to be 9th in point differential is insane. It is, what they're doing is incredibly unsustainable. I don't know, like if Patrick Mahomes keeps playing like this and they go undefeated, does he win MVP anyway? Because his numbers are not very good this year. I think Lamar Jackson should be running away with MVP, but voters just are not going to want to give it to him again. But kind of like Nikola Jokic in the NBA, if you're so good and you're putting up numbers that much better than your contemporaries, do you just kind of force people to vote for you? I don't really know what to make of it, but I mean, the Chiefs being 9-0 with barely a positive point differential is insane.
It's bizarre. I have a fun question for you. No one better to ask than the futures king yourself. All right. So I put a small bet on Joe Burrow MVP, and here's why. He's 30-1 on FanDuel. Now, if this loses, it won't mean anything to me. He's 30-1 on FanDuel. He's having a remarkable season. Like Joe Burrow, even without T. Higgins for 4 or 5 games, I think 5 games now, has been spectacular, right? Like he's on pace for 4,800 yards, 44 touchdowns or something insane, 40 plus touchdowns. He's only thrown 4 interceptions, yet this team continues to lose because of him. We've seen him in the past go on these insane runs to close out a year. They win like 9 straight. What if the Bengals run the table and Burrow keeps this momentum and essentially wills them to victories over the remaining games of the season and they make the playoffs? He's currently plus 3,000 on FanDuel to win MVP. And statistically, I think probably only Lamar has had a better statistical season at quarterback than Joe Burrow so far this year. The difference is one of them has won games because their defense hasn't been as bad as the Bengals.
Yeah, I think there's a path there. There's just so few quarterbacks because the MVP is going to be a quarterback. And there's so few quarterbacks that are putting up gaudy numbers this year. You've got Lamar Jackson. You've got Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes is only in the conversation because of what the team's record is. It's not based on what his statistics are. And then you look at some of the other guys who are towards the top there. You got Jalen Hurts. I think you can make a case for Hurts. But relative to the odds, yeah, I agree with you. If I had to bet somebody right now, with all the odds being considered, I think Burrow would be the guy.
Okay. I had a feeling you would like that because those odds are so long on a guy that's been as good as he has. I look at it like this. What if they were 6-3 right now instead of 3-6? What is Joe Burrow's, or whatever the record is? What are Joe Burrow's odds if they are 6-3 instead of 3-6?
Yeah, probably like 10-1 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe even better, honestly.
Yeah, I'm just looking up what the odds are for them to make the playoffs.
Can't be good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the DVOA odds because if I look at DVOA and it's like they only have a 5% chance to make the playoffs, which I don't think is going to be the case, then I would feel differently because there's no chance he wins MVP if they don't make the playoffs.
No, no chance.
All right, so
I'm going to say like 17%.
32%.
That's wow. And those odds give him a sub 5% chance, implied odds of winning the MVP.
Yeah, the AFC playoff picture is horrific. It's terrible.
You have Chiefs, Chargers, Steelers, Ravens, Bills, and that's it, right? Like right now that actually, am I missing a team? Or I'm sorry. And then what, and then Houston.
Okay. So there's going to be, I think there's a handful of teams that we could say pretty confidently are going to be in the playoffs. The Ravens, the Bills, also, why is this standings that I'm looking at? All the teams are like out of order. The ESPN standings are completely broken.
I can tell you right now, the Ravens, the Bills, the Texans, I think the Chargers will make it. They have a super easy schedule. The Chiefs, and then the Steelers probably will as well.
All right, here we go. All right, so agree with you. We've got, let's say, Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, Texans, Ravens, Chargers, all playoff teams. So then the final spot is between the Broncos, the Colts, the Bengals. Here are all the teams that are 2 games out. Broncos, Colts, Bengals, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
the Dolphins are live for that spot as well.
They definitely are. And I looked at their schedule. It's not that bad, but the Bengals have a legitimate shot. So I think a sprinkle on Joe Burrow there makes sense. You know, hell, even if you only put $50 on it, it's a nice payout that you forget about towards the end of the season anyway. All right. Should we build a FanDuel lineup for the people?
Let's do it. Let's go and look at the FanDuel side of things.
And by the way, guys, if you ever wanted to check these tools out for yourself, there's myriad ways to do it right now. However you want to do it. And I think you'll end up thoroughly enjoying these tools. So one way that you could do it is to use our link join and sign up with any of our sportsbook partners, whether it's Bet365. Jordan, I just slacked you something. Use that in a second. Underdog, FanDuel, Sleeper, Caesars, any of them. Get your bonus bets over there. Got to be 21 years old or to gamble. If you have a gambling problem, yes, go ahead and call 1-800-GAMBLER. Aside from that, though, any of those sign up in that first link in the description. If you click that link or the one in chat, right, and you just click claim offer on the page that it brings you to, make your quick deposit right after you sign up, place a bet on whatever you want. It doesn't matter. After that bet settles, not only are you getting credited with your bonus bets on whatever you do or your match bonus, which would already have happened, email us with a screenshot of your first settled bet and your welcome email at support@stokastic.com with those screenshots and simply tell us what leagues you want. It's that easy. And if you wanted multiple, we got you. Just sign up on as many books as you want. The only requirement is you have to click that claim offer to get in. Otherwise, we can't be crediting you with that. It's that simple. A free month of core, $99 value for NFL or whatever sport you want. It includes the single lineup sim, the actual sim, ownership, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, premium Discord, everything across the board that is going to put you in a spot where you are building better lineups and making more money as a result. Zach Williamson tweeted at us today, Greg. I loved this tweet. So, I have to say, hand building with the single lineup simulator is one, extremely fun, and two, has boosted my percent of successful lineups. It's like a puzzle or code that you're trying to crack by plugging in players. That's exactly why we did this. Build better lineups and still be able to retain the fun that you have as a hand builder. And I'd say it's been a success.
Yeah, by the way, I was just kind of looking over a couple of things. First, the data isn't up yet for FanDuel, so just have to stick for DraftKings for now. Also, another way to sign up for some of our tools for this weekend, there's a really big UFC card. John Jones taking on Stipe Miocic, potentially the last fight for both of them. And because there are massive contests on DraftKings, we're running a $1 sale for our MMA tools this weekend, the same way that we did at the start of the NFL season, the same way we did at the start of the NBA season. There's no real start of the MMA. It's just year round. There's a card just about every single weekend. So we're trying to figure out a good way to get people an inexpensive deal to also check out our MMA stuff. We figure with this being a big MSG card, this would be a good opportunity for it. So if you guys sign up, link down below in the YouTube description box, or sign up for our MMA core package, weekly package with the promo code BONES. Get access for this Saturday's card for just $1. You could use the single lineup sims, player projections, ownership projections, our sims. You could build lineups for the MMA card this weekend. Just $1 promo code BONES. So if you guys are playing MMA DFS, or if you're going to be watching the card this weekend, it's just $1. Check it out.
Check it out. And you don't actually need the promo codes for any of these. Just click the link in the description and it'll auto load all of those promos into it for you. So that's simple, whether you're on mobile or whether you're watching on a desktop or whatever it may be. All right, Greg, let's just build one more DraftKings lineup then.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's look back at DK, and we've done a Tua stack. We did the Drake May stack. So let's see. What are some of the other potential
I have
options
one I like. I have one I like.
Okay, hit me with it.
Let's try Cleveland.
Okay, yeah, you had mentioned Jameis Winston before. $5,500. He is cheap. He's got a great matchup as well against the New Orleans Saints, his former team. And with Jameis Winston, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get excitement, whether he's going to be throwing the ball to his team, the opposing team. Somebody's getting thrown the football down the field, and it's going to lead to fantasy points somewhere. Yeah, I think he's cheap, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and Elijah Moore just opens up a lot as well. So we can go Elijah Moore. We could go Njoku. We could go Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman. How do you want to play this one?
All right. So Tillman has now been priced up a little bit at $5,300. That's not really an issue, though. David Njoku is $5,500. I'm more apt to go to Tillman and Moore.
Let's try it. Moore's actually been getting a lot of volume quietly, very quietly. So I like this spot. Winston's dirt cheap. Let's see what we can build with this. I think it'll be a fun one. Plus, you saw that what I like to call dead cat bounce for the Saints last week.
Mhm.
I don't think that continues. This is still not a good defense. They traded Marshawn Lattimore as well. They're dealing with injuries on top of that. So this could end up being one of those weird games where we just see a lot of points. I also wouldn't be opposed to throwing Alvin Kamara. I know we don't have to run back, but I think this is like an ideal spot to run Alvin Kamara in
Yeah,
this
and I
game.
mean, I like Kamara anyway for the slate.
Exactly.
He's just been absurd for fantasy this year, so I'm totally cool with plugging him into really any lineup, but especially this one.
Exactly. I'll throw Titans D in just to kind of solidify that position. 6,100. 6,100 there remaining. Now you could go, oh, I have an idea. Let's try one with Davis Allen at tight end.
Okay.
We haven't done that yet.
Oh, so this will be like a crazy stars and scrubs build.
Big time. But I don't know how scrubby Moore and Tillman actually are when you're pairing them with Winston. It's like he's got to throw to somebody.
Yeah, I mean stars and scrubs from just a cheap and expensive players
Definitely.
perspective, not necessarily that we're actually rostering bad players here. I mean, based on how good Tillman's looked, and it wouldn't be the first time I've been fooled by a wide receiver breaking out in the second half of the season, but he looks like a legit number one wide receiver. But I've felt that way about guys like Travis Fulgham before, and then they disappear and fall off the face of the earth. But there are
Travis Fulgham, man, that was an Eagles guy. Yeah,
that was why I brought him up as a reference. But remember how good he looked, and he was like a fantasy stud in the second half of that year, and then he disappeared. He never existed again. But
yeah,
Tillman's looked really, really good so far.
With Fulgham, it was like he never existed in the first place. It was so odd, right? Because he had a straight month of just insane, like 4 straight 100-yard games. And then in the blink of an eye, he was gone. And you never heard from him again. Oh, Travis Fulgham. Anyway,
Yeah,
I want
pulling up his. Yeah, it is like he never existed because he was a rookie in 2019 and didn't play. Then to start the 2020 season, he had 4 touchdowns in the first 5 games of the season, and I don't think he ever had a game with 2 catches again for the rest of his career.
Isn't it amazing? I I don't get it. All right. Devon Achane. Yes, you go in again, sir. Still 7,400 remaining per player. 2 left. These builds are fun. These are really fun builds.
Yeah, plug him in there, Jordan. So we've got a wide receiver and a flex spot left. So at wide receiver, but there aren't that many like super expensive wide receivers I like. So maybe we go Shakir here, and then we could pay up for whichever running back projects best in the final spot. Like maybe that's we could plug McCaffrey in.
I have no problem with that. Yeah, if you go Khalil Shakir, that gives us McCaffrey.
Yeah, who projects best now, Jordan? I don't know how well we have McCaffrey projected, so that might kind of screw it up right now.
We don't have him projected as high as I think he will be projected.
Who's projecting best on screen there, Jordan?
Brees Hall.
Yeah, I would be leaving a bunch of salary on the team. Who projects second best? I don't mind Kyron either. Yeah, we could go Kyron and then just upgrade the defense spot.
What if
Jets D? Let's see how this looks.
Sure, yeah, I'm fine with that.
What were we gonna add?
I was just gonna say, I wonder what it would look like if we went even cheaper with Gibbs and then upgraded Shakir, but Shakir's projecting well enough right now where I don't think it would actually help us. All right, not bad.
9.3. Not bad.
Not bad. So yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. We have a few minutes to go, so let's try one more thing. Here we go. There's a 4th lineup. What do you anticipate like a a Lamar stack looks like, or a Josh Allen stack. We haven't done anything expensive yet. We could do a Brock Purdy stack as well if you wanted to try that, like a Purdy with Juwan Johnson and Kittle or something, or Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, it's kind of hard with the expensive QBs. Like we almost actually, you know who's not expensive? I know you hate when I've brought him up in the past. Mahomes is not expensive anymore.
We could try it. Tony says, love you guys, but in my opinion, Christian McCaffrey's such a better play than Kamara this week. Yeah, we already said we expect this is just we are literally getting out our data team an initial run of projections for you guys on Wednesday for us to do this show just to get an idea of what these builds look like. I think Greg would also agree that Christian McCaffrey's projection comes up throughout the week after seeing what he did in his first game back.
Yeah, I mean we've said a few times over the course of the show that we like McCaffrey a lot this week. The issue that we're running into as we're talking to running backs is that we like too many running backs.
Right. Yeah, Kyron, HN, Gibbs, McCaffrey. I think Kamara's fine. Jonathan Taylor. We haven't even talked Jonathan Taylor, but that matchup against the Jets run defense is really good. The Jets defense has been terrible on the ground.
And then on the cheap end, also Estime, we brought him up as the only cheap, valuable running back on the slate. So the tricky part is going to be narrowing down who it is that we're actually rostering at running back as we get later into the week, because I'm not going to be able to play 30% of all of these guys.
A lot of people are asking if we can do a Russell Wilson stack. Well, you guys already know, probably one of my favorite players in the league is George Pickens. I love that guy, man. He's so good.
Stack.
What?
That's an expensive stack this week.
It's not crazy because Wilson's 59. Pickens is expensive though.
For what it's worth, Hopkins, if I'm not mistaken, Hopkins and Mahomes is cheaper than Russell Wilson and George Pickens.
So would you want to do like Hopkins, Mahomes, Kelsey and just see how it builds?
Yeah, and then run it back with Shakir.
Let's see.
It's not expensive.
Let's see if it actually sims out well. And yeah, guys, I don't hate the Russell Pickens. If someone said throw Freiermuth in there too, that's fine. I just hate trying to figure out who the second option is going to be for Pittsburgh. Wait, what's Hopkins priced at?
5,700.
That's pretty cheap.
Yeah, he's 5,700. Mahomes is 6,800, which off the top of my head is the cheapest he's ever been. And then Kelsey is 6,300. And Kelsey just continues to be solid for DFS.
Yeah. I threw Titans in there. Just we'll upgrade if we have to. I don't think we will. That's 5,800 per player remaining. I'll throw Estime in there. This might be a spot where we could rely on a cheap option like Estime. And now we're at 61. That gives us a little bit of, oh wait, no, Khalil Shakir as well, right? So Shakir. This actually is a spot where I like a run back because this game could be 17-14 or it could be 41-38.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all of these players individually, with the exception of Patrick Mahomes, probably ironically, I like all of these as DFS options that we have in here.
Tony said, I could see Chubb getting 100 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, I really contemplated that yesterday. The problem with Nick Chubb is 100 yards and a touchdown isn't actually that good for this week. Like if you got 100 yards and a touchdown from Nick Chubb, and like one reception, you're getting what, 17, 18 or 6K. I don't think it's going to be enough. That's what I keep running into. If he's not going to be heavily involved in the passing game, you need 2 touchdowns from Chubb if he's going to have a 100-yard game.
And he's looked terrible so far.
Yeah, he's not back yet, if he's ever going to be back. I'm a huge Nick Chubb fan. I love that guy. When healthier, he's the best pure running back in the league. But in my opinion, at least, it's tough right now, though.
There's a couple of problems here. First off, he's 28 years old. He turns 29 next month. That is ancient for a running back. Now
Who
on
has
top of it,
multiple knee injuries.
yeah, 2 devastating knee injuries. Last year was one of the most horrific knee injuries I've ever seen. Like he got hit in the knee and like his leg turned like an
Oh,
L.
I know.
So I think it's pretty unlikely that Nick Chubb is ever going to be good again. If he was, this is the spot for him, but he's averaging 2.7 yards per carry. He's not involved in the passing game. There's a ton of good running backs on the slate. That's a tough button for me to want to click.
Couldn't agree more. I'm going Achane again. I still think with the way we have it projected right now, he's one of the best actual values at running back, even at 7,200. With that projection in that matchup, I really think Achane just belongs in a lot of lineups this week.
Agreed. Yeah, we go Achane there, and now we've got wide receiver and a flex left. And what's that dollar amount on screen, Jordan?
5,500.
All right, so for 5,500, we could go Jacoby Myers in here.
Oh, I like that.
And he's a mid-range guy who's right around that price point, getting a little bit of correlation with Achane as well. And then let's just see who's projecting the best of
Juwan Jennings actually looks good here at that price against Seattle. Jennings or Tillman are two, I think, really solid ways to finish this lineup out.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with either of them. Let's see, who's the more expensive of the two?
They're the same, I think.
Oh, exact same price?
Let's throw Jennings in.
All right. Yeah, let's go Jennings at 53, then just upgrade the defense.
This is going to look good. Wait, you can't upgrade it. Isn't it at 0?
I thought we had a few $100s in salary left. If we didn't, then just okay, cool. We used all the salary. Sim it. I like this lineup, actually.
I like this lineup a lot. Come on, give us the goods to close out the show on a high note. There we go.
Nice.
Man, that's actually a way, making that Chiefs stack with Hopkins, Kelsey, and Shakir. You're right. It's not that expensive. Like, we're still getting Achane in there, Kelsey. Myers is probably a little underpriced. Jennings has been really involved, and you have, you've got no Brandon Ayuk. So Ricky Pearsall's been involved, but it doesn't matter all that much. This looks pretty good. I'm excited to see, though, once we get some like a refining process throughout the week, once you and I do the Friday show, what our lineup builds look like in the Sims.
Yeah, and I still think that there's some upside in Patrick Mahomes, even if the games have just not really shown it out this year. A little bit better the last couple of games, actually. Against Denver was a low-scoring game, but he did have 266 passing yards and a touchdown. The game before against Tampa Bay, he had 291 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. So price down, as cheap as I can remember him being. I like this build.
Me too. Philip asks, does the Sims take leaving money on the table into consideration when grading lineups? I mean, sure, but it's projection, it's ownership, it's all of that stuff. It's the specific build. I would say that's far more important when you're building showdown lineups. When you're building 11-game slate lineups, you trying to get contrarian by leaving 1,500 on the table is a long-term bad move.
The answer is indirectly, because it's hard to build a lineup that leaves $1,000 in salary on the table that projects as well as a lineup that uses all of the salary.
Exactly.
But it's not like the Sims are grading out the lineups and saying docking this lineup because it leaves this amount of salary on the table. It's just more so if you leave salary on the table, not always true, but in general, you're rostering lesser players, and that is going to hurt the lineup.
Yep, exactly. Hey guys, follow Greg at G Ehrenberg DFS. Follow his bankroll challenge as well. It's been an enjoyable one using the portfolio EV tools. Myself at Lafayette_D. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. We'll be back Friday. Matt Kajeska and myself tomorrow. Strategy show live before lock with Greg at night. And then tonight, deeper dive live before lock for NBA. Until next time, have a good one, friends. Peace.